So guys, I've decided something, and I made a strong decision on this. So some of you guys may be aware, I'm pretty sure everybody's aware about this at this point, but I spent the last 3-4 years of my life studying demons, and demons specifically. Now I studied all religion because they're apparent everywhere. You got demons, you got Jinn, you got a bunch of different names for all kinds of different things. Some people worship them as gods. It's goofy, but it exists. Because I've spent so many years studying demons, I think I've decided I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to just break down the specific Jinn that target specific traits. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is so people can know how to go against it. Now, it's obvious you need to be into prayer. Praying 5 times a day, you got to keep that connection close. I've explained this multiple times, but if you guys haven't heard by now, the way I look at it as like a cup. Your spiritual energy, your connection is like a cup. And the more you pray, the more this cup gets full. And if you're praying 5 times a day and you're practicing correctly, you can't be affected by the Jinn, you can't be cursed. But of course, everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect, which is why I have an issue with the Haram police, but that's a different conversation. Because nobody's perfect, we all make mistakes. There's always going to be a little bit that splashes over out of our cup at the very least. Even the most perfect person living today still makes mistakes. They still make little mistakes here and there that kind of drain the cup a little bit. But anyways, when you're praying and you have this cup full, when demons or Jinn or Haram actions try to seep into your life, it just pours right off the top. It falls right out of the cup. There's no room for the Jinn to get into that cup. There's no room for the shaitan to come in and make mistakes or force you to create larger errors than you would otherwise. And so your baseline should always be the Quran. We're taught everything how to do that. We're taught how we need to worship. We're taught how we need to pray. We have hadith, we have the Quran, we have everything we need. So that should always be your baseline, guys. But what I'm here to do is kind of give you leverage so you can understand. I think a lot of the reason why people make mistakes, whether it be socially, financially, all these different things, is due to like a lack of understanding, a lack of information. And when I look back on my life and all the biggest mistakes I've ever made, it was because I didn't understand something and I ran at it anyways. You know, I am quite an idiot a lot of the time, and my fearlessness gets the best of me and ends up hurting me a lot of the time. And so reflecting back on myself and seeing how I make mistakes and why I make mistakes, I think this is a big part of it, is people just truly don't understand the Jinn, and they don't understand what causes what and what their intention is. Like, we have a good idea, a good baseline, but there's a little bit more specifics in it that are a little alarming once you understand how they go about these actions. And look, before I go into this, I want everybody to know, I love crumble cookies and ice cream as much as the next person. I actually was overweight. I know it's surprising, but I was a little porky boy at one point in time, and I was not very happy with myself. I was extremely depressed, and I was falling to gluttony. Gluttony non-stop. I was severely overweight, and I was eating due to a depression. A lot of it was just my life was messed up because of my own actions, and I didn't know how to process it and handle it, so I just like turned to food. I was like bored eating. It's the same stuff that everybody does when they start getting overweight. It wasn't really good. I have some of the pictures on Instagram, like before and after, like body transformation stuff, but it's old stuff. Doesn't really matter right here. But just trust me, I was overweight. I looked gross. I was a little porker boy, and it was disgusting. Okay, and the reason why I'm saying that is gluttony slips in pretty easy. Gluttony is one of those ones that like you'll start doing it and you won't realize it's wrong. It's pretty dangerous, and honestly it might be one of the most dangerous because it affects your health, it shortens your life. You know, it is a sin and it is inconsiderate. I mean, it depends on your perspective on gluttony, but it could be kind of inconsiderate. It's like, okay, I'm gorging myself with all this food. I'm gaining 5 pounds of pure fat a month, which is 3,500 calories per pound of fat. So it's a pretty big caloric surplus at that point. Like that's a lot of fat. That's a lot of extra food. And so I'm eating all this stuff, but there's people that are hungry out here. So it's like kind of messed up. Even though I bought the food doesn't mean I couldn't like give it to somebody who needed, or it just depends on how extreme you want to take your thinking. But gluttony is a pretty bad one. And the reason why it kind of scares the crap out of me more than other ones is because how easy it shows up. Because food itself isn't evil. Food itself isn't bad. It's not like gambling. It's like, okay, we know gambling's bad. We know if we're gonna gamble, we're gonna lose money. We know it's dumb. We know there's nothing beneficial to get out of gambling. Now, some people fall for it. Yeah, it's a big trend, but people can't lie to themselves. And I know every person gambling knows in the back of their mind, like, this is bad. I'm not gonna win. Whereas like food, it doesn't work that way. Food can be good. It can be tasty. It releases hormones and endorphins in your brain for a reason. It's a treat. It is a beneficial thing. We use food to conversate with our loved ones when we sit down at dinner and speak to everybody about their day. We use food as a gift, as a thank you to people we care about. When they do something we really appreciate or we want to show appreciation to somebody else, we can gift them food. So food itself is a good thing. We need it to live, we need it to survive. And of course there's good food and there's bad food. And of course, like, having treats every once in a while is not a bad thing at all. You should be able to enjoy your life. There's a big difference between gluttony and enjoying your life though. And because this is tricky, this Jinn, I'm gonna say, is a little weak because it has to take the easy sin. Now this Jinn specifically, I'll tell you its name in a second, has to take the easy route. It may seem like it's strong, it may seem like it's big, but it forces people through the easiest sin to commit. It tempts people into something that isn't bad and makes them take it to a degree where it becomes bad. So it's not like gambling, it's not like cheating on your wife or cheating on your husband. It's not as powerful, but it can cause just as much damage. Now, this Jinn, his name is Bsub. Do not repeat that name. Do not say it multiple times. You can start inviting him into your life. That's why I don't pronounce Iblis correctly, because he's the big boy. I don't want him to know. When I speak about these names and I say the names, don't write them down. Don't text them. Don't pronounce them out loud. Don't repeat them. Don't do that crap. Please just don't do that. Just be cool about it. Like, don't overreact about the situation. But its name is Bsub, which is Lord of the Flies. Now, that's a little ironic because when you think of flies, you think of rotting, you think of bad food, right? So I guess that's not actually ironic, it actually just makes sense. Now, Bsub is also in charge of envy, and those also go hand in hand. So it's gluttony, you become overweight, you become gross, you don't like the way you look, you become jealous of others, and you start envying others. You start envying the people that are in shape. You start discrediting them. You're like, oh no, you're just on steroids. You're not natural and blah, blah, blah. You're like, yeah, there's a lot of fake natties out here, but you guys know what I mean. Everybody knows the person that's overweight and makes every excuse possible and why they're overweight. Like, I get it, there's thyroid issues, but it's not that common. And this goes hand in hand. The envy and the gluttony mix. They become one very, very fast. I know I was that person. I was that guy that was like, oh, I just can't control myself. Like, yeah, in the moment I was depressed and I was tempted to eat too much. But at some point in time, you got to be real with yourself and you got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to be like, look, I'm being fat. I'm being gross. I need to stop this. So you figure out a way to make it stop. I get it. It's not that easy. If you are that person, I don't mean disrespect. I'm not coming at you personally. Well, I kind of am because I want you to fix it. But go get a coach. Go get a personal trainer. Go to a gym and just talk to the jack dude. Like, there's plenty of resources and people like seeing big people in the gym. I promise you, I worked in the fitness industry for many years before I got on social media. When I was like in that in-between, when I wasn't really doing construction, that's all I did. I was a personal trainer. I ran multiple nutrition stores. I understand the fitness industry very well. And I promise you, if you're overweight or even obese, when you're in the gym, people are not judging you. What they're thinking in their head is that they are proud of you, that they're like, wow, this dude's not scared. He's doing something about himself. People respect it. They don't look down on it. But back to Bsub. Okay, so his name's a little interesting because it has Baal or Baal in the front. A lot of the time people think Baal is a demon, or they think the name Bsub means Satan or another name for the devil, but it is not. This is an individual jinn. There is plenty of occultists and people in witchcraft and doing dark magic stuff that work directly with Bsub. They're in direct dedication to the spirit. It is an individual spirit. Now, its name Baal or Baal at the beginning of the name actually means Lord. Now, of course, we don't mean God. We're not replacing this fly thing with Allah. That's not what's happening, but that's just the name. And it's kind of a trick that they played on people to get people to call it a lord. It's a false lord. Now, what's a little weird about Bsub is there is a part in the Christian Bible. Now, you guys can take it with a grain of salt, whether you take the Christian Bible for serious or not. That's up to you. I don't care what you choose. But there is a part in the Christian Bible that talks about it, and I have it pulled up. And there's a name involved in this that I can't pronounce, so you're going to have to just look it up on your own time. Matter of fact, you should look up everything I say. Before I continue, you guys should look up and fact check everything I say and everything everybody ever says. I get this crap all the time where people are like, well, you didn't cite your sources. Like, buddy, check what I say. You should check what everybody ever says. Why are you just taking a YouTube video or content as like face value? Like, I definitely research everything before I talk it. I pull it up while I'm speaking these things, but you should be looking it up as well. You shouldn't just listen. It's kind of scary that people would just like listen to what I'm saying. Like, as flattering as that is and as beautiful as it is, don't do that. But back to the Bible verse. It is 2 Kings 1, 3 through 4. And it talks about how Elijah condemned Ahaziah to die by God's words because Ahaziah sought counsel from Bsub. Meaning this individual sought counsel from Bsub, worked with this spirit, worked with this demon, and was sentenced to death. Was like, no, you should not be living. Now there's more to it. I'm not going to go into the whole detail because it's the Christian Bible, but this is really fascinating to see because it shows a situation where somebody's following a false god and giving worship to something else, and they were condemned and sentenced for their life to be ended by God's word. Now, the reason why this fly being has a little bit of strength to him is because temptation. Now, it works like any other temptation, and it starts really small. It starts with your thoughts. That's all these jinn can do at the end of the day. And like I explained previously, we all have a different set of tests. I firmly believe these deities are targeting each and every single one of us. We all have our own tests and our own challenges to overcome. And if you are assigned this fly spirit, then you're going to have struggles with food. It's going to be extremely difficult. So if you are somebody that's in shape, I hope you guys have a little bit more envy on that and understand, like, this person is going through an intense challenge. If somebody is morbidly obese, they're going through a pretty rough challenge. The same difficulty, or possibly worse, as the challenge you face. Whether your challenge be gambling or cheating or all these different sins, all these different haram, your most difficult challenge is probably just as difficult as their food challenge. But the way they do this is through your thoughts first. They start small. First, you get the temptation. You're like, I'm going to eat ice cream. I'm going to just have a little bit of ice cream. I've done this a lot. And you sit in bed, you get your ice cream, and you're like, I'm going to eat this right before bed. It'll be tasty. I'll just have a little bit. And you get your tub of ice cream and you eat like 1 or 2 bites. You set it down for a minute and you're like, okay, this was great. That's what I wanted. But then that thought pops in the back of your head and it keeps tempting you. And it's like, hey, why not another bite? Well, one won't hurt. That one spoonful, maybe 80 calories. You'll be okay. It's not going to bother you. Just do another one. And it continues more and more and more. And it keeps pressing to the point where you keep doing one more, over and over and over again until the whole thing's gone. Now this progresses. You wake up the next morning and you're like, I don't feel the best, but it didn't destroy my body. I'm still in mostly good shape. I still feel mostly good. I can still go to work. I can still do everything I need to do throughout the day. So it wasn't really that bad. And then it happens again, and it happens again, and it happens again, and it becomes a habit. When you guys are taking care of your life and putting your life back together, you need to focus on your habits first. Your habits control your thinking. Your habits decide what your mind wants and craves. When you have the habit of saying no to things like this, it gets very easy to say no. There's a lot of addiction counseling information about this that works really good. When it comes to addiction, they have habit building and habit forming systems down to a very good science. So if you are struggling with something like this, I would go into addiction research and see kind of how they fix like serious addictions. And one of the reasons why I recommend addiction research is because this is what it is. It becomes an addiction at that point. But whenever you say no, your body gets used to saying no. It gets used to not chasing this thing. It gets used to not needing this dopamine hit of ice cream and crap and cake and crumble cookies. And not only do these jinn, especially Bsub, start tempting you slowly and it grows more and more and more, but they also distract you. So this is what kind of scares me more than the rest of it, is because it consumes your mind. It consumes your other thoughts. It consumes what your outlook and your perspective on life is, and it distracts you. So not only are you doing this and this like addiction to food creeped up small into your life, but also it's distracting you with the problem. But also it's distracting you from the problem. It's making you not look at it in the face. It's making you not see it for what it is. You're caught up in work, stressed about your work. Why are you stressing about your weight? You got bigger problems. And that is the most dangerous part, is whenever it tells you you have bigger issues. You have other problems to worry about. Why are you worrying about eating a little bit too much? It's just food. It's like, oh, well, maybe the fact that it will shorten your life in half. Maybe the fact that it's wrong to do. Maybe the fact that your entire health and your entire well-being will be less. Maybe it is a big issue. Maybe it's not just a small problem. When you're overweight and you're sluggish and you feel like crap, your entire quality of life suffers. You feel like crap 24/7. So it's hard to enjoy little moments. I mean, just going to like a theme park with your family, getting on roller coaster rides. your stomach so full that you feel like crap, and if you go spinning around, you're going to throw up all over the place. Your body is in excruciating pain. If you do this for a multitude of years, your joints run out. Your joints are just like walking around with a bunch of Legos in them. You're in constant pain. And then it makes your life shorter. So you don't even have the time to continue to clean everything up. You don't even have the time or the ability to fix all these other problems. So maybe this might be a bigger deal than what it's telling you. And this is the trick of the shaitan. It's not only to get you to go in this direction, but to downplay how bad it is. They will make you feel like these things you're doing isn't that bad. We can't lie to ourselves, so we're going to understand like this is bad, this is something I shouldn't be doing, but we might downplay it a bit. Like in the back of our mind, we know like I shouldn't be eating this much. 7,500 calories in a day is way too much. And especially if it's all junk food and fast food and crap, we know we're not supposed to have haram in our stomachs. But even though we know all these things, we know all the negatives, we're going to downplay it because it doesn't instantly affect you. It's not like you go cheat and you get caught doing it, where it's going to be immediate backlash. You're going to lose your wife, you're going to lose your husband, you're going to lose all your money. They're going to divorce you and take all their money because you cheated, you deserve it. But this creeps in slow. This isn't an immediate problem. This isn't something that just pops into your face. It takes 20 years and then it shows up and it's like, hey, you're in a hospital bed now. Now, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I was kind of holding that off to the end. But the big part about this, after all this is how it works and how they tempt you and how it can get so bad very quickly, but the pain doesn't start till later on. And after the pain starts, it's going to sit there for a long time. It's the haram food. This part is dangerous because now you have haram in your stomach. I'm sure you guys will know what I'm talking about here. I couldn't find the exact story, but I've heard it before in a YouTube video from like Mufti Mank or something like that. It was like something where he was talking about haram food in your stomach. And the way it was explained was that you're doing all these prayers and you're making dua and you're praying for something in your life to get something beneficial, something you need. You're in a hard spot and you need something, but your prayers aren't being answered. And he made the point, and it's like, there is haram in your belly. There is haram inside of you physically. And you're wondering why your prayers didn't get answered. Like, I get it. As Muslims, most of us don't eat pork. We avoid pork, but I think there's also some that like consume alcohol and just eat other things that aren't good. You know, we do pretty good about avoiding bacon. But come on, let's be honest. Like, pork's not really that good. It's not that tempting. After you stop eating it, you're like, this thing's gross. It's pretty easy to avoid pork. The other things are a little bit more challenging. So if you are kind of in that situation and you feel like that might apply to you, it could be a good way to look at it. I mean, something as simple as like, oh, you had some sausage on your pizza or bacon on your pizza is enough. Like, that's more than enough. Now, once again, I get it. Most of us avoid pork, but there's plenty of other things. I mean, there's whole chapters in the Quran that talk about this. We have very good detailed information on what foods to avoid. And plus, halal beef, halal meats taste way better. I didn't know I was eating it before reverting because I was like going to this local butcher, but I've had Walmart beef, Walmart steak, and Walmart chicken. It is horrible. That is disgusting. The energy from it is bad. Everything about it is bad, which makes me want to go into the spiritual side of it a little bit. We'll just touch on it lightly. You are what you eat, kind of. Now, when you're consuming these meats, these negative meats, these haram foods, the energy is trapped inside of this. And this has been measured. Some people believe in frequencies and are interested in them. Some people aren't. So if that's not you, just hear me out for just a minute. There's a point to this. When the animal dies in fear, when the animal is slaughtered in fear and having negative emotions and negative energy and its whole life has been negative, that energy traps in that animal. That's an unhappy animal. It could be a lamb. It could be a chicken. It could be a cow. It doesn't matter. This animal has a horrible life. It was mistreated. Now, I'm far from a vegan. Those people are weird. But they do have some pretty good points sometimes. And this is one of them where they explain this very well. The vegans have this down. These animals live miserable lives. They feel miserable. They're sad. They're hurt. They're upset. And whenever the animal is slaughtered, all that energy is inside that meat. All that energy is inside that food. And we can see it. We can see it by the quality of meat. We could taste it by the quality of the food. You could not season a halal piece of steak and season a McDonald's cheeseburger or a Walmart steak just to make the comparison more equal. And you could taste the difference. You could taste which one's halal. You could taste which one's haram. You know it. Now, don't do that. No, don't go test this. Don't go eating haram stuff just to prove a point. But this energy goes inside of you. You eat this, you consume this. This energy goes into your stomach and into your body, and it's supposed to fuel your body. Now, we're allowed to eat these animals, but it has to be done fairly. It has to be done in a way where the energy doesn't get trapped in the meat, because that energy will come onto us, and our prayers will become a whisper. Now, if you look up the vibration frequency scale, the lowest energies is regret and shame. These animals, that's what they're feeling when they get slaughtered. They feel fear, they feel regret, they feel shame, they feel misery, the lowest vibrations possible. That goes inside of you. I don't know how many different ways I'm going to attempt to explain this, but I really, really hope people understand this, because it will make a huge difference in your life. Just eating clean versus eating dirty, your whole outlook and perspective and demeanor on life is going to be so much different. And you don't want that trapped inside of you. You do not want to feel that way. And I know many of us, especially in America, like everybody eats haram 24/7. Like it's hard to get halal foods here. I get that. But you don't want to put yourself in that situation. You will feel miserable if you continue to eat this way. You will feel miserable if you consume meat that has negative energy attached to it. Low vibration foods will make you low vibration. And when you go into prayer, it will become quiet. It will become more silent. It is harder to get your prayers out. It's harder to do anything in life. You're going to attract how you feel. And if you feel like crap, you're going to attract crap. So if you or anybody you know is struggling with food, please stop listening to Bsub. That is what its intention is. It is a weak deity or spirit or whatever. Some people get mad when I use different adjectives to describe these things, but you know what I mean. It is weak. It is soft. It takes years to be able to work itself into you. It is not something that's that powerful, but you need to take your power back. You need to have faith in Allah and stop listening to these spirits. When you fall for these temptations, you're listening to the jinn, you're listening to the shaitan, you're following the voice of the shaitan. That's the opposite of what we want to do. Now, we're all aware, like if shaitan popped in front of us and was like, hey, come do this, we're not going to listen to it. But they're more sneaky than that. They're not going to be up in your face and just upfront about these things. So please, please, please take back control over your life. Please stop listening to the shaitan and start eating a little bit more cleaner. There's a lot of resources. The fitness industry is huge, and I understand it's confusing and there is a lot of issues within the fitness industry. When it comes to meal plans and diet plans and things like that, we have science based around it. We have a lot of good information that can explain how to do this. There's tons of calculators online that can explain how much food you should be eating, calories, proteins, all your different macros, all the micronutrients. We have these third-party non-biased calculators that you can use. If all else fails, just speak to a professional. There's tons of online coaches that are really good too. So thank you. That's all I have for today. But I appreciate you guys listening to another one of my rants. This is something I struggled with in the past, and it sucked. I was miserable. I hated myself. I genuinely hated myself. I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I felt. I was ashamed of myself. It really sucks to think that there's people out there that still feel that way. Even though it was a very brief moment for myself, thankfully. A lot of people are affected by this, and it's a pretty easy one to fall into, but it's just as easy to fall out of. It's hard initially. It takes 7 to 14 days to build that habit. Your first 3 days of changing a diet suck really bad. I've cut weight and I've bulked weight plenty of times. But whenever you're going through the first 3 days, your blood sugars and a bunch of different stuff is going on to your body. I'm not going to go into the science behind it, and so the first 3 days are the worst. And then the first week sucks. But after that, you get 2 weeks in, 14 days in, it becomes very easy. I promise. It gets very easy, very fast. I don't know. My light just randomly turned off on me. I actually kind of like that lighting a little bit better. But anyways, this is where I'm going to end it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening to another rant, another ramble. I have another video out soon. I'm going to just start going through all these jinn and just exposing the crap out of all of them. That way you guys can like blame something and know exactly what they're doing, how they do it, and how it affects you and your test specifically. And hopefully this gives people a little bit more clarity on the jinn and why they're doing the things they do and how they function. That way you could beat them, you can defeat them.